if you don't put in the study time, you're not going to pass. You have to be able to take the intentional action to say that you are going to put in all the hours of studying, not just assume because you're going to pass. It's not going to work that way. You are going to have to commit to studying in order to prepare yourself to really pass this exam. I'm Chris Johnson, Mr. CPA Diversity, and in this video, we're going to talk about why and how I became a certified public accountant, a CPA. Let's go. Why I became a certified public accountant, why I became a CPA, and how did I get there? This is a video I've been wanting to do for a while because I want you all to know how I became a CPA and why I want other people to follow this path that I've chosen as well. I'm almost at 500 subscribers with CPA Diversity to this day, so thank all of you for just subscribing and wanting to know more. I want to do this video because I feel like it's important. It's like the base of why I even do CPA Diversity, because this was my story. This is what happened to me. And I know that this is a path that other people can take to find success in their life. So it's important to me to share. So here we go. Growing up as a kid, I worked jobs, but my family did okay, but we weren't like wealthy. So I always had this desire to want to know how to earn money. Like I want to make good money when I get older. So I really had this interest in business. And when I graduated from high school, I decided I'm going to go into business when I go to college and major. So I went to Bethune-Cookman University. I went my freshman year. I was like, okay, School of Business is where I'm going. I'm going to major in business management because I want to be a businessman. So I majored in business management and quickly found out that everybody in the School of Business was a business management major. I mean, it was like almost everybody that enrolled in the School of Business. So I thought to myself, I said, you know what? If business management is the biggest major at my small school, just imagine how many students in the country are majoring in business management. And if all those students are majoring in business management, then what does that mean for me when I go out and I look for a job when I graduate? It means I'm going to compete with everybody. And already it didn't set me apart, and I wanted to have kind of a unique stance once I graduated to be able to find my path to success. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to get a little more targeted in what I decide to do while I'm studying in college. What I realized was that there were a small group of students in the accounting major that were in my school, and I thought to myself, accounting, okay, if I'm counting money, then I'm gonna make money. So that was as simple as the logic went. If I'm counting money, I'm gonna make money. So I decided, you know what, that makes sense to me. And if there's a small group of students in this school, then there's probably a small group of students studying accounting in other schools. And that means that I'll have a smaller group of people to compete with when I graduate and get a job. So I enrolled in accounting as my major, only to find out that African Americans, black and brown students do not major in accounting, and that there are even less. I mean, 1% of African Americans or even Hispanics pass the CPA exam and become CPAs. I thought to myself, whoa, that's crazy. 1%, and the statistic was less than 1% at the time when I was in school. So I said to myself, well, this has got to change. I'm going to be one of those people who pass. That's just who I am. I'm going to pass the CPA exam. I had made my mind up, like this is going to happen. And I knew also when I studied to pass the CPA exam that was going to make me unique. It was going to make me valuable. It was going to make me more competitive when I go out to find a job after graduation. So it was all set up in my head to be a win. Like, I know this is going to work for me. So I resolved to become a CPA and do whatever it takes to make it happen. So then I started to find out everything it took. I had to graduate, I had to have a certain amount of credits, I had to study for the CPA exam, and then I had to pass the CPA exam. Then I had to get some years of experience, and I was like, whoa, that's a lot of steps. But you know what? I know that once I become a CPA, I'm going to be one of the few that's going to have this license, this designation that says you're a really smart guy. And I committed to the study process. But first I had to figure out how to get the study materials. Because I was a college student, I didn't have a few $100 to my disposal to just invest in study materials. I had to think about how I was going to get my study materials either by earning more money while I was in college or somehow figuring out how to get it for free, which I did. And I did a video explaining exactly how I did that, which is going to be linked here, and got all my study material for free. And after I graduated from college, I got right into all that study material. I got all the books, I got all the online courses, I got the questions database, and I treated studying like it was a full-time job. Thankfully, I had a sister and a brother-in-law who were willing to let me live with them for an entire year just to study for the CPA exam. Shout out to my sister and my brother-in-law. Love y'all. Thank you, because that changed my life. And I studied for 8 hours a day. I had my teacher when I was in college who was like gung-ho about making sure that the students at my school passed the CPA exam. We were at HBCU, which is a historically black college or university, which means we were predominantly black students. And that meant that most of us were not likely to even go through the process of studying and passing the CPA exam. We had a teacher who was a white man who had made it his goal to get a few of us over the finish line to become CPAs, and he had hope for very little of us. But I remember telling him, I'm going to pass the CPA exam. I'm going to do it. And he was like, okay, show me. So I did a couple things and I showed him, which I'll probably do a video on later. But back to my point, he used to say, you have to study 8 hours a day. And that sounded like torture. 8 hours a day, to say the least. But what he explained to me one day, and it was in a business law class that I took, and he was the same teacher for business law. He taught my accounting courses and he taught my business law courses. And one day in business law, this is what he said. He said, you all think you're going to pass the CPA exam and become CPAs because you think you're you. You think you're Chris. You're Chris Johnson. You're just going to pass because nothing bad happens to you. That's kind of the thinking that he was saying we all had in our heads. But the truth is, if you don't put in the study time, you're not going to pass. You have to be able to take the intentional action to say that you are going to put in all the hours of studying, not just assume because you're going to pass. It's not going to work that way. You are going to have to commit to studying in order to prepare yourself to really pass this exam. And the way he broke it down that day just really made sense to me. It was like, it's not going to be by chance that this happens. This is going to be by intentional decision and effort put in to make sure that you are prepared and you can pass. So I committed to that. I said, I heard you, 8 hours a day. Okay, but how do we actually make this 8 hours a day work? So when I graduated and I went to go live with my sister and I didn't have a job and they were like, go ahead, study for the CPA exam. We understand that it's important. I studied for 8 hours a day. But the way I did it was I woke up in the morning and I studied for maybe 3 or 4 hours. Then I took a lunch break and I tried to do something to just kind of unwind my mind. And then I would get back to studying. I would study for another couple hours. And then I would take another break, and then I'll study for another couple hours and take another break. And it averaged about maybe 6.5, 7 hours a day. But in that time, I was able to retain. I was focused. I had one place where I always would study. I'd have all my books there, and I knew if I studied in this one place, I was kind of in that mind frame of focus and retain. And my mind would kind of know that. When I sat there and I studied, my mind would be in that mode of, okay, we're preparing for something. So that's always advice that I give anyone who's studying for the exam. Try to find an environment that will foster your mind to know, okay, we're about to retain information. Some of it might be really intensive or hard to learn, but like try to just kind of have a flow. And also don't think that when I say study for 8 hours a day, that you have to just straight 8 hours. Try to break it up throughout your day if you can. And I know some of you are working, or some of you have children, or some of you have, other commitments, but you have to figure out how to make that 8 hours work. And even if you have to say 5 hours a day is what you can do. Just figure out what works, but try to have a schedule that you can stick to. And if you have a shorter amount of time in one day, that you can study, then that might mean you need a longer period of time over the span of a few months to actually prepare for the exam. But that's another video. I actually have a video where I give some more study tips called 3 Best Tips for a CPA Exam. I think it's called. I'll just link it right here. But I studied for 8 hours a day. Then the first exam that I took was FAR. And everybody says, oh, FAR is the hardest exam, and it's the one with all the financial formulas and all the math, and it's the hardest one. Well, actually, to me, FAR was like the easiest section. And I say that because I studied FAR so well that I knew the formulas, I understood all the concept. I knew that if you knew what you were doing on FAR, there was really one answer that would be there for you to select. You can't say that for the other sections, but for FAR, it was like, if I know this well enough, there's only going to be one answer. And I feel like, and I haven't taken the CPA exam in some years now, but I remember, from what I remember, they would have multiple choice with 4 options. And I remember they would turn some of the numbers around. Like the answer would be the right answer, but the numbers would be shifted. But I would not be tripped up because I knew that my calculations had put me at one number, and that was the number that I saw. So I picked that number and felt very confident in that. But like I said, I studied a lot. I studied so that I knew basically every single answer to the problem that they would present to me on the test. Before I even went to go sit for the test, that's how comfortable I felt with the practice database that I had. So that's my advice to you. Get very comfortable with your questions database and feel comfortable and confident that you can pass the exam before you actually go sit for the exam. And that's what I tried to do when I walked into any section that I took. Now, I took FAR, and then after FAR, I took audit, and I passed audit my first try, just like I passed FAR my first try. So I was really feeling myself. I was feeling like, yeah, I'm about to kill all 4 of these exams. They said the CPA exam was hard. This ain't hard. This is easy. So I start getting a little relaxed with my studying, and came up a little short on reg when I tried to take it, and failed reg the first time I took it. And was thinking, okay, wow, you know what, Chris? You didn't study the same that you did for reg. You kind of let it get to your head a little bit. But, hey, it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and move on to BEC, and then turn around and do reg. So that's what I did. I kind of refocused. I studied for BEC, passed BEC my first try, and then I had a small window where I could have either waited a month to take reg or just take it in the same month. So I turned around and took reg in the same month and passed the last section, and that was all 4 parts of the exam. When I learned, I had waited and I saw the last score for BEC and for reg, I remember thinking to myself, wow, like I felt so good. I felt like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like I'm an African American who just passed the CPA exam. I'm one of the few. I'm now contributing to one more person who is going to take that number from less than 1% and at least make it 1% now, right? Which, I mean, it's an accomplishment. And I felt so good because it felt like everything that I had been doing was going to be worth it now. It was the hardest I had ever studied for anything. I pushed myself to retain knowledge, to read, so much. But walking out of the study process, I felt smarter. I felt like a better reader. I felt like I could learn more. It was just like a great feeling. And there was so much happening at the same time when I got my last score, because at the point where I was taking reg, I was at about a year after graduating, and I remember my sister was kind of nudging like, so you gonna go get a job or something? And I'm like, yeah, I am. I promise. As soon as I pass this CPA exam, you ain't gonna have to worry about me getting the job. I'm gonna be gone. I'm gonna just start my career, and it's gonna be, it's gonna be great. She was like, okay. And I remember they were kind of trying to give me some recommendations for stuff to try to go do, work this and work that. And I was like, as soon as this exam is done, I promise you, I'm gonna be out of your hair, And when I passed 3 parts, I started putting in applications for EY, for PwC, and got responses from both of them. With just having 3 parts passed on my resume, I got callbacks. it was like, like it was worth it, because the companies that I wanted to pay attention to me that weren't paying any attention to me before were now giving me callbacks just because I could say that I passed 3 sections of the exam. Like, if you pass sections of the CPA exam and you put that on your resume, you're gonna look more attractive to a recruiter than other people who just have a degree, right? So it was cool to be able to put 3 parts past. But then while I was even going through the interview process, I could tell them that I had passed the 4th part and I had all 4 parts under my belt, So naturally, I was just a steal at that point. It was like, this guy is a college graduate and he's already passed the CPA exam. Most firms don't expect that out of their staff. They expect their staff to come on board and then start studying for the CPA exam while you're still learning the ropes of being a staff, which is a challenge. But I had already had all that done. And I got a bonus with EY for already having the CPA exam passed. I think they gave me like $5,000 just to sign on with them. And, I did another video where I talked about my first, all the things that came with EY and working with there and getting hired and working with there. So I'll link that here. When I started working at EY, I realized like that statistic was so true. Like, I was one of the only African Americans in the room most of the time. There were, with EY being such a big global firm, you did see other people. You did see other black people. You did see other African Americans. You saw some Hispanics. You saw diversity. And not to say that there's no diversity there. You just didn't see as much of us. And you always wondered why, because there were so many opportunities that came from being in this profession. And ever since I passed the CPA exam, my life has completely just changed for the better. Not only did I get hired at EY, I had like so many travel experiences, so many food experiences that I got to taste. Like, my world just broadened because of the experiences that were coming from my career. And you know what? Let me just show you a little bit. Everything changed, and that is why I'm so passionate about trying to communicate to you that it's worth it for you to go through that process, go through that commitment of studying. Studying is not always fun. It is just not going to be fun, but you're going to be smarter on the other end of it. You're going to be more prepared on the other end of it. You're going to be able to help businesses. You're going to be able to bring value to the table once you pass this exam. So that is why I do this. That's why we want you to pass the exam. We want you to decide to become a CPA. We want you to go into this profession and contribute to bringing more diversity into the profession. And I've got a lot coming up to show that the profession wants you. The profession wants more black and brown professionals in the profession. I just dropped a few videos about the CAQ and NABA partnering to get more African Americans into the accounting pipeline. And the CAQ also has this bold ambition initiative that they have launched, which I'll link here and show maybe a screenshot here, about all the things that they're doing to get more black and brown and underrepresented ethnicities into the profession of accounting. I'm living the results of deciding to become a CPA, but now what I'm doing is giving back. I want to inspire you to go do the same. I want you to tell people who are going to college, who might be Hispanic or Asian or African American, who are thinking about business, to say, hey, don't think accounting is hard. They're looking for you. They have all kind of initiatives, programs, money, and funding to get you to study accounting, and that they should watch our videos, get them to subscribe to CPA Diversity, and change their life. So that's the journey. That's the journey. And subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to be breaking down more of those experiences that I just showed, that I just talked about, more about studying and how I actually went through the study process. We're going to be talking about actual topics. We're going to be doing a lot. So, Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next video.